Okay, so let's start. Welcome everyone to our workshop, Peacemaking, Rethinking Current Tools and Mechanisms. We are speaking at the moment when traditional diplomacy is being tested, from long wars to hybrid threats and rising polarization. As Ukrainians, this topic is deeply personal. The tools of peace are directly linked to our country's survival. And for us, it is very important to see so many colleagues to whom this topic of peace is important and valuable. So let's begin. And I just wanted to make a short address to you short info that this webinar is being recorded and will be used with Etherea app. So I will ask Diana to go for the next slide. And as an important start, we will do with introduction about Etherea. Thanks to Etherea, we are here today. Etherea is an international digital platform designed to empower young people, youth leaders, and community initiatives across the world. The app functions as a global ecosystem for youth engagement, learning, collaboration, and impact-driven activities. It is connected to the Etherea Global Youth Ambassadors Program, where young people leaders from different countries, including Ukraine, represent their communities and co-create projects that support democracy, social innovation, resilience, and youth leadership. As a part of this platform, we are having this webinar today. Its core message is create your own utopia on Earth. The app combines personal growth with global teams. It uses interactive tools, gamification, community engagement, and educational resources to inspire a consistent action. For me, joining Ambassador for Current Affairs of Etherea was very special, since the idea itself, the future impact, and the existence of this application itself is something when I started my career path was so needed but didn't existed yet. It is so important to know the paths and the scenarios, how to interact, how to know, and how to keep all aspects of your life in balance. And this app will bring you into this in very early stage and will help you to set the right priorities and to do best for yourself and, of course, for the global good. And before we start, please don't forget to build your network for global change. So please indicate your name, social media links, and short intro about yourself into the Zoom chat. So please take your time for this activity, for making your introduction in the Zoom chat, but we are continuing with our webinar. So we are here. And I wanted to bring a short intro about myself. First of all, I'm Ukrainian and feel proud to be born in my country that became a symbol of resistance and bravery. I am international security and policy expert with 10 years of experience in the civil society international cooperation spheres, founder of the Youth Peacemaking Diplomacy in Ukraine 2022, for what I received in 2023 award for 5 based cases of youth diplomacy in Ukraine. The case was named of Peacemaking Diplomacy of International and Local Cooperation. EDYN Ukraine, a member of the board and the member of numerous Ukrainian international networks, including the distinguished role of Etherea Ambassador for Current Affairs. Please feel free to reach me via social media. I'm very open for cooperation, mentorship advice, or just to stay connected. And at this point, I want to pass the word to my colleague for this workshop, Diana Shepovich. Please, Diana, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. As it was mentioned, my name is Diana. It's a pleasure to be joining Bohdanna today for this workshop. I interned with Bohdanna this summer at the European Democracy Youth Network division in Ukraine. But right now, I'm working as president of the Cambridge University Ukrainian Society, and we are spreading cultural and academic knowledge about Ukraine at the University of Cambridge. We've recently organized the 4th Summit of Ukrainian Student Union in the UK, which united more than 50 Ukrainian student societies across the United Kingdom. I'm also working as a social media manager for Professional Government Association, which promotes civic service reform in Ukraine. And my research interests include reputational security and strategic communications, especially in the context of wartime Ukraine. And without any further ado, we'll proceed to our workshop and outline the structure of what you can expect today. So we'll set off with a historical background in peacemaking and peace building, and we'll also mention the definitions to make sure that we are on the same page. We'll invite you to join our activity, one color, one word for peace, and then continue with more theoretical definitions on frameworks, institutions, and mandates. We'll mention specific cases of peacekeeping and peace-building operations, including Ukrainian context. And the final part of the workshop will be focused on youth participation in peace and security. And then we'll make the conclusions and recommendations of how to move forward, and then take on your questions and share our reflections on what was mentioned today. And beginning with the historical background, after the Second World War, the United Nations was established to prevent another global conflict. And although peacekeeping does not appear in the UN Charter, it emerged as a practical solution to crises that the Charter did not foresee. United Nations Truth Supervision Organization was set up in 1948, and it was the first observer mission created to monitor agreements in the Middle East, and it is the precedent for impartial, lightly equipped international observers. And then in 1956, the first armed peacekeeping force was employed during the Suez Crisis in order to separate the warring parties. And this force demonstrated that neutral multinational forces could stabilize volatile situations without replacing national armies. And the two key personalities which contribute massively to the development of peacekeeping and peacebuilding institutions and charters are as follow. So Lester Pearson, Canadian Secretary of State for External Affairs, was the one who proposed to use the neutral UN force to de-escalate the Suez Crisis. And it is considered that this idea of his essentially became the foundation for modern peacekeeping. And for this, he was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1957. And then Dag Hammarskjöld, I hope I pronounced this correctly, was the UN Secretary General who developed the conceptual foundations of peacekeeping, including the Chapter 6.5 model, which is a hybrid between peaceful settlement and enforcement. And his reform professionalized the UN's operational capacity. All these early innovations built the principles which endure up to today, and they include consent, impartiality, and minimum use of force. Moving on with definition of everything that starts with peace, in order to guide our conversation with clarity. So peacemaking involves diplomatic efforts such as mediation, negotiation, shuttle diplomacy, and special envoys, which are aimed at stopping active conflict. So unlike other tools, peacemaking focuses on achieving a negotiated political settlement rather than managing violence or force. In contrast, peacekeeping involves force and the employment of military, police, civilian personnel to stabilize the situations after a ceasefire or peace agreement. And peacekeeping operations often go beyond traditional ceasefire monitoring. They can include protection of civilians, supporting election, and disarmament, and also institution building. And finally, peace building aims to address the structural causes of conflict, such as weak governance, inequality, trauma, or social exclusion. It involves long-term reforms in justice and security institutions, can involve reconciliation, support for economic recovery, and social cohesion. And I would say that a pretty much recent resolution on sustaining peace highlighted that peace building should begin during conflict and not after.
Thank you very much, Diana. And on this part is very important to highlight what appeasement really means, because sometimes the definition of appeasement can be mistakenly accepted as a peacemaking, peacekeeping, or peace building and other terms, but it's not. What appeasement really means is that it is a policy of pacifying an aggressor through concessions, signaling tolerance of violations. And here actually we bringing some, I guess, the most historically famous example when in the early 1930s Western powers, the United Kingdom and France, failed to stop Hitler's expansion, accepting the Anschluss of Austria and the occupation of Sudetenland. And the result, as we know, of this concession only encouraged future aggression, leading to the invasion of Poland after the outbreak of the World War II. And why it is matter today, why we are speaking and really interested about the peacemaking, as a definition and as in practice, I guess, reality. It is matter today because UN peace operation and diplomacy are not appeasement when grounded in principles of justice, accountability, and lasting peace. And true peace is built on deterrence and justice, not fear, on compromise with the aggressor. And I will ask to move to the next slide, because why actually it is matters for Ukraine? Because we are seeing that and witnessing the history trying to repeat itself. First of all, the historical lesson. The policy of appeasement in the early 30s taught the world that ignoring or accommodating aggressors only fuels it. Ukraine faces the same logic today. Every concession to Russia under the illusion of peace risks make legitimate occupation and eroding international law. The second point, why it is important, because true peace requires justice, especially for war crimes. Appeasement would freeze injustice, and peacemaking must build and just and durable order. The third point, which is important about global security implication, namely how the world responds to the Russian war in Ukraine. And this response and act of the world community will define the credibility of the entire international security system. And what I mean about that, if aggression goes unpunished, it sends a message that the borders, rights, and lives can be negotiated, what is undermining the principle of the United Nations Charter. And supporting Ukraine in this case is not prolonging war, it is preserving the rule-based order that prevents future wars. And our core message for this slide will be that appeasement rewards aggression and peacemaking resists its true responsibility. And now on this point, we will move to our activity. We still will be interacting in our chat. Activity calls one color, one word for peace. How to do this activity? Please write in the same Zoom chat a color for you and one word that representing peace for you. We are giving just 1 and 2 minutes for this activity, and then we will review our diversity. What does peace mean for us? Thank you very much. And already on this point, we can see that peace has many forms for everyone, and sustainable peace must reflect diverse experiences. We can see the diversity of colors and the diversity of meaning of the peace for us. And this is wonderful. So in this point, you also can proceed to write in the chat because it's also an important part to knowing each other well and to stay connected. And then we are moving with the other slides. Diana, I'm passing the floor to you.
Thank you, Bohdanna. And we're returning to some more theory around peacemaking and peace building, and also covering the frameworks, institutions, and mandates. So mandates are defined by the UN Security Council, which authorizes what a mission can or cannot do. Because they must be passed by vote, mandates often reflect political compromise, even when the needs on the ground require more robust or fast action. And an example here is Ukrainian situation. So in 2014, Russia invaded and annexed Crimean Peninsula in Ukraine, and the Russia Security Council since then prevented the deployment of a UN peacekeeping mission. So the OCSE mission was deployed with this special monitoring mission that had limited powers. It could only observe but do not intervene to protect Ukrainian civilians from Russian aggression. And other key policy frameworks and doctrines which are relevant here are as follows. So there is the UN Charter, where Chapter 6 covers peaceful settlement of disputes such as negotiation and mediation, and Chapter 7 authorizes enforcement measures, including sanctions or force. And these sections form the legal basis for peacemaking and peacekeeping. The Capstone Doctrine of 2008 is the UN core operational manual for peacekeeping. It defines principles, types of missions, command structures, and rules of engagement. It also introduced the concept of multi-dimensional peacekeeping, where different institutions and bodies such as military, police, and civilian tasks are integrated to achieve the common goal. International humanitarian law governs the conduct of parties during the conflict, defining protection for civilians and restriction on weapons and tactics. Peacekeeping missions must operate within international humanitarian law, and sometimes they also keep other parties to comply with it. Human rights frameworks ensure missions to promote and protect fundamental human rights, and modern missions should integrate human rights monitoring into their core tasks to prevent abuses and strengthen accountability. And the key institutions which are involved in the processes of peacekeeping and peacemaking involve the Department of Peace Operations, which runs peacekeeping missions, handles troop deployment, logistics, training, and mandate implementation. Also, the Department of Political and Peacebuilding Affairs, which leads conflict prevention, early warning, mediation, support, and political analysis. Peacebuilding Commission coordinates long-term recovery strategies with governments, donors, and civil society, while the Peacebuilding Fund provides finance for rapid start peacebuilding projects. And overall, these bodies help bridge the gap between peacekeeping and post-conflict reconstruction. It's also important to note that regional bodies also play a very active role in peacekeeping and peace building. And among them are the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, where 57 states from Europe, Central Asia, and North America focus on early warning and monitoring of conflicts. European Union deploys civilian missions for rule of law, border management, and reforms. The African Union conducts peace support operations and often reacts more rapidly than the UN. And finally, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization engages in security sector reform and protection missions. And their varied mandates allow for more flexible responses than the UN alone, and they support the peacekeeping and peacebuilding missions.
Thank you, Diana. And here we go for some cases of peacekeeping and peacebuilding cooperation. According to the numbers what we are having in 2025, UN in total had 72 peacekeeping missions being organized. And from these 72, 59 are already considered as finished and 13 are ongoing. And it is, of course, impossible to highlight all 72 missions, so we decided to stop just on 3 really remarkable examples to show how the peacemaking missions are evolved. And we will start from the case of Namibia, that is indeed multidimensional United Nations peacekeeping mission. And its main objective was to oversee Namibia's transition to independence, including organizing of free and fair election, facilitation of refugee return, and supervising the withdrawal of foreign troops, also demilitarization and maintaining public order. Although this mission was not the first ever peacekeeping mission in United Nations system, but it was among the first truly multidimensional. Its mandate of this mission being focused not only on disarming, but also on demilitarization, withdrawal of foreign forces, security oversight, and creating conditions for the rule of law and democratic governments. And in the result, we are having Namibia's successful transition to independence under the United Nations supervision at that time. And another case of the mission goes from former Yugoslavia. This peacekeeping mission was established to address the de-escalate conflicts across the territory of the former Yugoslavia, and the mission mandate included ensuring humanitarian aid delivery, protection of civilians, monitoring ceasefire, and maintaining the safety of United Nations designed safe areas. And this mission faced serious operational challenges, a limited mandate, political division among United Nations member states and local parties, and insufficient resources and ineffective action. The mission failed to prevent mass killings of civilians and becoming a symbol of international peacekeeping failure. This mission failure has a poor field of command, but also a deep political division among the United Nations Security Council members, which blocked timely reinforcement and decisive intervention despite clear early warnings of genocide. Historians and mainly policy scholars will use this mission as a case study of systematic institutional failure, demonstrating how global governments structures struggled to protect civilians aimed hybrid and ethnic wars. So another case, Rwanda, and I will start from the mandate, of course, because this mission mandate was to monitor the implementation of the Arusha peace agreement that was signed between the government of Rwanda and the Rwandan Patriotic Front. The agreement aimed to end the civil war and create conditions for political power sharing and national reconciliation. And the problem again with United Nations mission mandate, because the mandate was extremely restricted. Peacekeepers were not authorized to use force except in self-defense, and the mission commander repeatedly requested to expand the mandate and reinforce from the United Nations Security Council, but this appeals was denied, and we have a very tragic outcome of this inaction, and you can see this lost listed on the slide. So the mission failed to prevent the genocide becoming one of the most tragic failures in the United Nations peacekeeping history. And I will ask to move for another slide, because for Ukrainians it's really important, and we often even hearing about political global reviews, and it's really important for us to answer the question why peacekeeping operations are currently impossible in Ukraine. So let's start about peacekeeping preconditions. They are traditionally deployed after or alongside a political settlement, meaning that the warring parties agrees to a ceasefire and withdrawal of forces and shared mechanisms for monitoring compliance. In Ukraine case, it has not happened because of several reasons. First, because of the nature of the aggression. What I mean, Russia is not the internal party of the conflict, but the aggressor state that invaded the independent country Ukraine. The second one, that any international organization cannot deploy a peacemaking mission without the consent of both sides. So, and Russia would never grant such consent, as it would imply recognition of its aggression. And the third reason why peacekeeping operation becomes relevant only at the stage of peace negotiation. And it's not a place for peace negotiation for now, because Ukraine currently engaged in active defense and counter defense operation. They're not active proclaimed political settlement or peace agreement. Therefore, as long as the full-scale hostilities continue and no security guarantees exist, no international peacekeeping missions, including one under United Nations mandate, can be established. And I will ask to move for another slide. Because I just want to show you that United Nations are not only the one tool how we can actually achieve the peace. Also, we will use the same case for Ukraine. And I also see a very popular topic that is going in media side, and also personally I in political advisement for international aspect receive a very requested topic of speculation. So speculation like Ukraine does not really want to have peace. And now I just want to show you a fact that after the start of the aggression, Ukraine did attempts to have this peace. So we will start with the first stage, that after Russian invasion of Crimea and the outbreak war in Donbas in 2014, several rounds of negotiation were held, collectively known as the Minsk process. It was 2 rounds of Minsk process. The first one started in 2014, and unfortunately it collapsed almost immediately as Russia continued arming and directing its proxies in Ukrainian border and Donbas. The second round, Minsk 2, started in February 2014, and it also failed because Russia did not withdraw troops or return control to the borders to Ukrainians. Ukrainians also could not have election under the temporary occupied territories, and the agreement was impossible because for Ukrainian side it was a fear of absence of credible security guarantees. And then after this format was unworking, the Normandy format talks was established. It was provided mostly over 20 rounds, were held at different levels, from leader summit to technical consultation. And unfortunately, this format also of negotiation failed because as Russia's refusal to recognize itself as a party of the conflict. And as you know, in 2022, the full-scale invasion happened. And despite this, still we have cases when international missions are eager to support Ukraine with its peacekeeping way. Namely, we have an OSCE special monitoring mission that is actually in the history of OSCE is proclaimed as the largest civilian mission in history. And it was an arm that had no enforcement powers in Ukraine, and it was terminated in March 2022 after this full-scale invasion. The second one, UN missions, actually was unable to deploy as we discussed, the peacekeeping missions as it should be, because any decision of the United Nations Security Councils, they were voted by Russia, and the General Assembly resolutions supported Ukraine, but they was lack of reinforcement powers. And so at the considering that peacekeeping mission was unable and are unable right now with current conditions to be established in Ukraine, the United Nations maintains in Ukraine only humanitarian presence. You can see the name of these agencies of United Nations here on the slide, but not a security one. It is also important to highlight the EU missions, namely UAM, that was launched in 2014 and still is actively working in Ukraine. It does not enforce like peacemaking classical, but it helps to build institutional resilience for Ukrainian government institution too. And I will ask to move for another slide. Why actually these efforts failed for peace negotiation for Ukraine before, because first one, there no political will from Russia to end the war, or agreements were blocked by the Kremlin to regroup and to straining its control of the territories. Second one, the mandate the mandate without enforcement. What I mean that observers of the current missions that was listed before, international missions, namely OSCE, was lacked of both enforcement arms and authority to compel compliance. The third reason is that restricted access to lack of trust, because observers were often, let's say, blind in combat zones, because they had an access to the territories itself and was unable to verify the violations. And another one, the veto D block at the United Security Council. Like Russia systematically blocked all decisions that could authorize intervention or accountability. So as just a conclusion to this side is a peacekeeping operation can only be effective after the cessation of active hostilities, when parties consent to international monitoring or peace implementation. And for now, Ukraine itself performs this function. So Ukraine currently simultaneously defending civilians, deterring aggression, and creating the precondition for a just and lasting peace. And on this point, I would like to pass the word to Diana to continue with the presentation.
Yes, thank you, Bohdanna, for such a detailed description of our Ukrainian context and peacemaking operations from all around the world. And I'd like to continue by mentioning the role of young people in peace and security, and how they're already getting involved and what can be done further. And Bohdanna will then also highlight examples from our context from Ukraine. So in 2015, the United Nations Security Council resolution launched the Youth, Peace and Security Agenda, which formally recognized young people as active agents in peace rather than just passive victims. It outlined 5 pillars of their involvement, such as participation, protection, prevention, partnership, and reintegration. And then in 2018, another council resolution highlighted that young people should be meaningfully included in formal peace negotiations between different parties. And following that, in 2020, participation of young people in peacekeeping and peacemaking processes was institutionalized across the whole UN system. And the UN was mandated to regularly report on youth engagement in peace processes. And then you can see the Missing Peace study, which I mentioned here on the slide. It highlighted that young people are already involved in peacemaking and peace-building processes by mediating their community disputes, preventing violence, and running various resilience initiatives in their communities. However, they are rarely formally recognized or provided with resources to support their actions. And this particular research highlighted that across countries, the problems remain the same, and highlighted as well areas for improvement. And I'm passing the floor to Bohdanna to mention case studies and examples from Ukraine.
Thank you very much, Diana. I would like to start from the neck that Youth Peace Security United Nations framework and agenda is not ratified in Ukraine, and I hope I can add the world yet, and we will see that Youth Peace Security agenda will be in Ukraine. But another important resolution as what is ratified in Ukraine is Women Peace Security 1325. Actually, a lot of youth engagement here in Ukraine are being under this mandate under the Women Peace Security agenda. So it's all having its face in the face of regional coalitions of 3025, because in each region of Ukraine are created local coalitions that are uniting all of the stakeholders from civil society sectors, government, and so on, to pushing this agenda locally. So what does this coalition basically does? First of all, it's dialogue between citizens, police, and authorities in other public formats, such as forum roundtables for making analytic sharing experience cases to monitor and know how to react on what. And another one activity is a local action plan of women peace security that are every year updated, reviewed, and used to particular goals. Another one, it's a conflict sensitivity and peace education. In this coalition, these coalitions use trains for volunteers actions. Also, they're learning different tools for conflict analysis, for receiving the information about trauma-informed communication and gender-sensitive security. Another one aspect that goes under this coalition is coordination during the crisis, what is really important. And another one, community resilient initiatives such as projects for safe spaces, psychological support groups, and community monitoring teams. And why actually we are calling this as a peacemaking? Because this all actions does not negotiate ceasefire, but it conducts a local level preventive diplomacy that is really connected to the system of the study of John Paul Ladark regarding the bridge cooperation for peacemaking on local aspects. And this local level diplomacy is reducing tension, mediating disputes, and increasing trust between institution and citizen. It also ensuring inclusive participation and preventing violence from escalating. In wartime in Ukraine, these micro-level efforts create a social stability necessary for national resilience and eventual recovery. And what mainly use contribution to peace and security in Ukraine with this coalition or even without. You can actually see, let's say, a picture how it looks like. And I will go one by one. First of all, this is military and territorial defense. Thousands of Ukrainians serve in the armed forces and territorial defense, supporting by building drones, communication, and frontline logistics. Another one is volunteering and humanitarian aid. Yes, youth leads large-scale volunteers network, delivering aid, evacuating civilians, supporting internally displaced people, and fundraising for military needs. Another one is a tactic medicine first response. Young medics provide life-saving support near the front line and assess stabilization points and train communities for the first aid. Another one is rehabilitation and mental health support. Youth organize recovery programs for wounded soldiers, veteran integration activities, and peer support, mental health initiatives. Another one, and very important, cybersecurity and informational resilience. Young experts counter disinformation, strengthen digital security, and promote literacy across communities. And another one is international advocacy. Ukrainian youth speak globally about Ukrainian defense, human rights, and resilience at conferences, youth networks, and diplomatic platforms. And I will ask Diana to move for another slide about actually conclusions and recommendations for diplomats, policy-making decision makers, for everyone who can have influence on United Nations system. Like peacekeeping evolved from simple ceasefire monitoring to multidimensional missions because the type of the conflicts itself changed. But overstretched mandates, political blockages, and lack of resources, it continues to limit results. So more flexible, realistic, and locally grounded approaches are needed. And what recommendation we can address to this auditory is that, first of all, clear mandates, with realistic scope, proper resourcing, and define limits. Another one recommendation, stronger political leadership from Secretary General and mediation and early warning. Another one recommendation is flexible financing, especially crisis fund for rapid response. Another one for closer cooperation with regional organizations. Another recommendation, greater inclusion of civil society and youth following the large multi-level peacebuilding model into the peacemaking process. And the last recommendation for policymakers is advocacy on all levels for making principle of international law works. I will ask to move to another slide, Diana. The recommendation was addressed to one auditory, and this is something what will make change globally because it started from us. What can we do? What each of us can do despite of our position and despite of our experience locally to make a change? So first of all, it's strengthening community trust and dialogue. What do we mean? First, building respectful communication in families, workplaces, and communities, and also facilitate conversations that reduce polarization and misinformation. It also about support inclusion of different voices, especially youth and other groups. Second is about practice non-violent communication. It is important to build skills to resolve conflicts constructively. It also for promoting empathy, active listening, and de-escalation in everyday interaction. Another recommendation is about volunteer for community resilience, support local humanitarian efforts, veterans assistance, youth programs, or community safety initiatives. Also help build networks of mutual aid in crisis response. The fourth recommendation about promote accurate information. Firstly, it's fact check and avoid sharing harmful narratives. Educate others about digital hygiene and media literacy. Counter misinformation calmly and responsibly. The first recommendation about supporting mental health and well-being. Be attentive to emotional needs of others, encourage access to psychological support, and practice self-care to avoid burnout. The sixth recommendation is about join civic and youth initiative, such as participate in youth councils, NGOs, community dialogues, or peace-focused projects. Also, don't forget to use your voice and vote, advocate, and contribute to local decision making. The seventh recommendation is to engage in cross-culture understanding, collaborate with international networks, build bridges with peers from different regions or backgrounds, share Ukraine's stories globally or stories about your countries. The eighth one recommendation to contribute to local security safety. It's about get basic training of first aid, about the crisis response or emergency preparedness. It also for supporting community resilience plans. The ninth recommendation will be to promote human rights and rule of law. It is very important for us to stand against discrimination, hate speech, or injustice, and also support transparency, accountability, and ethical leadership. We should always empower and make our voice to be heard for injustice, to advocate for the right things. And the last recommendation, lead by example. It's last but the most important, because it's about everyday work, everyday personal work. Start with you. Show kindness, integrity, and responsibility in daily actions. Inspire others through positive behavior, reliability, and civic communities. And we are going to the next slide, because we are come to the end of today's webinar, and one message of that stands out clearly, that peace is not a static condition, but a living process that evolves with every generation, every challenge, and every act of cooperation. We are highlighted how peacemaking tools must adapt to today's realities, from hybrid conflicts to informational warfare to community-level resilience and youth diplomacy. What unites all of these approaches is a simple truth: sustainable peace begins when dialogue, justice, and inclusion works together. So let's continue to rethink not only what mechanisms we use, but how we build truth, empower people, and ensure that peace efforts are owned by those who live by them every day. And thank you, dear participants, dear Etherea community. Many thanks to Selena for your support for making this webinar happen. So I would like to make a transition to Q&A section. Now we would like to open the floor for your questions or reflections. Please feel free to raise your hand or write your question in the chat. You may want to share a thought, an experience from your own context regarding peacemaking, or make any question to any of us. This is your time to join the conversation, and please be respectful to your colleagues here. So, dear colleagues, please raise your hand or write a question in the Zoom chat. The floor is yours now. So, is there any reflection or question on the floor? Maybe we'll just give 1 or 2 minutes to think about the Q&A session to participants, or about maybe some reflection. Maybe you just want to share something. So please, we just would like to see your hand, and we will pass the mic to you. I see the comment in our chat from Annalise. I really I hope that I'm writing your name properly. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And thank you very much for your kind words regarding the workshop. And what is mentioned is as a part of the Palestinian part, American. I think there's a lot of to learn from how to get involved in peacemaking outside of protest. We are really happy to hear that the information that you're hearing today is useful, and as far as I know, the recording will be also shared. So every time when you would like to go back to some kind of the information or you would like to investigate more, we are always open to receive your additional questions in personal communication. For my name, you can find me in all social medias. Also, you can find Diana, and we will provide you with more communication if it is required. Thank you very much for sharing your reflection. Maybe there is another reflection regarding this workshop, or probably you have a question to us. A very good question from the Deepak Kumar. I really hope that I read your name correctly. So here is his question. So as you said, peacekeeping needs mutual consent. What can be done if one of them doesn't give consent? I can answer from the practice that it is right now. If it has not consent, how can you force someone to make an action? So this is about building different scenarios. For example, if you, for example, this is some. I will still use Ukrainians' experience because this is how to say, I'm really expert in this topic, and I can tell you by this example why the what to do if the concept is not working is to have a coalition of countries. In our case, it's European countries that is protecting and advocate about our voice more globally to access particular needs for Ukraine. It's about to make a diplomatic or economic pressure on other side, for example. This is just, I guess, the only one way, because if another part is really so, let's say, stubborn, and for particular reasons, numerous reasons, the conflict or the war is still proceeding for impersonal interest of the aggressor, then it should be a global pressure. Because if you are alone in this fighting, there is a really high percentage that you cannot achieve or what your peace future. That's why you need allies who will be your advocates for your needs. So this is what I can say answering on this question. Diana, maybe you have something to add regarding this.
I don't have anything major to add here, but I do agree with Bohdanna, but that peacemaking and peace building processes should not be done in isolation. So allies should be joining in to support the parties and advocate for them. So I do agree here with Bohdanna.
Thank you very much, Diana. And also we have a comment from Volodymyr Antkiv. He is Ukrainian. Thank you for the interesting workshop. As a result, full of thoughts. Thank you very much that this workshop was interesting for you. Also, we have a comment from Winnie. I really hope that I read your name right. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Thank you for the insightful workshop. Thank you very much. And we will have a comment from John. I also hope that I spell your name right. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Amazing workshop. I value all the insights. Thank you very much for your kind words and comments. So in this part, we still have a couple minutes till we exceed our time, because we have an 1 1 hour scheduled webinar, including our theoretical and some practical activities with time for Q&A and reflection. So please share your voice or share your insights via the chat. We still have time to answer for your questions and to hear you if you would like to share your voice here. We also heard this comment from Leah. No questions from my side. Thank you so much. We can stand in solidarity with those fighting for peace and humanitarian rights in Palestine, Ukraine, the DRC, Sudan, and communities everywhere. Thank you very much. A question from Claudia. I'm so happy to see you, Claudia. You did an amazing job with presenting this complex topic. Thank you so much for sharing this knowledge. Thank you very much for your kind words, Claudia. So we are still having 1 minute. Maybe anyone would like to have a floor and also to share some insights from your impersonal experience, or maybe you would like to use some tools in person or some tools in your local communities or NGOs to implement and share the peacemaking actions in your field. I guess there will be no other additional question or remarks on this point. Oh, okay. In this point, thank you for all of your thoughtful questions, for your attention, and for your time for at these weekdays. We really appreciate it. And your thoughtful question and warm comments regarding the work itself, they remind us how complex, but also how deeply human treasure the work of peace is. Oh, we also have a question from Claudia. We still have time, so we take it. How other Eastern European countries can create better visibility for this issue? I sometimes feel that this topic is not understood by Western Europe. This is very right and very true. Even here in Ukraine, I guess, when we are hearing the world about the peace and peacemaking, we also trying somehow to assume it as appeasement. That's why to make it more visible, it's important to speak, just to make thematic workshops, to have to bring this topic with your community NGO to make this event, because and then you will face the situation when you will have a different audience. Some people will come because they may assume that you will speak about appeasement, and maybe they will come already, let's say, in let's say with attentions to have, let's say, a debate or fight about that. For some people, it will be just a field of interest. So if you're really interested about this topic, you need really to take the leadership and responsibility to make this advocacy about this aspect and to say how it is, how it's working, and why it's important to not mix different sentences and meanings, because the responsibility is on us. And also we have a comment. I hope I answer your question. Diana, maybe you have something to add to Claudia's question. If not, I will read another.
I do agree about taking responsibility for advocating and sharing the knowledge and information about the processes. And I do think that it could also be valuable to reach out to journalists in your country and presenting them with bullet points about what's happening in Ukraine. After, for example, consulting with Ukrainian experts and their journalists, this is what, for example, we find helpful with our society in order to promote what we are doing and, share experiences and the news.
Thank you, Diana. And also, we have a comment from Anna. Anna, thank you very much for joining. She is saying this. Thank you so much for this workshop. Also, we have a question from Deepak. I really hope I read your name well. Please correct me if not. And what is the highlights? Not a question, but just wondering if the world would ever unite against wars one day and make strict laws so that there would be no war in the future. This is really a wonderful thought that after the World War II was actually inspired the creation of the United Nations, because the goal of the United Nations or creation to precede and to not let the next war happen. But as you see, the United Nations Charter and the regulation documents that happens, and the Security Council members, unfortunately, are proceeding and spreading internally and internationally some of the conflicts and wars around the world. So this is amazing spirit that was at that times, and now like this is timeless spirit that I guess everyone would like to achieve, but for numerous reasons and political interest of different countries that happened. That's why in our recommendation we include a very practical things to make mandates more flexible and increased, and to have to the Security General more powers for mediation, because he also very limited with his actions to react and to bring this mediation for now. And that's why we should advocate to make the system work as we wish. But I think that, as we see from the history, there is impossible to avoid wars. That's why we need, and I guess everyone will agree with you, to build and to advocate for these changes that will build a really practical system of reaction to not bring the place of political manipulation, or probably of making some decision being stopped or even manipulated. So that's why it is very important to make our system more effective and more and just better by the advocating what is good and what is right. We need to use our voice. Thank you very much for your comment. And we have a comment from Claudia for answering questions. Thank you so much. Thank you very much, everyone. We already exceeded our time. Thank you very much for your time. Please use this QR code to sign up for Etherea app, and you can be the first one who will use this amazing app with different amazing topics. You can also find on Etherea social media other links about other upcoming workshop from another sectors of our wonderful ambassadors. So you'll definitely find something what might interest you to listen and to have more. So please have a safe day ahead and safe evenings, and have a good and wonderful day, everyone.